can tell by these beautiful blue skies that I am in Los Angeles, and we are going to start the day at David Kordansky Gallery to see Derek Fordjour's debut exhibit since joining the gallery in 2021. Fordjour always brings this fully immersive experience, so I love how we're immediately thrown into this world that he's created at the very beginning of the exhibit, which consists of this installation, his signature collage works, sculpture, and even a live magic show. The exhibit is titled Magic, Mystery, and Legerdemain, and it revolves all around the theme of magic. The title of the show comes from the magician Black Herman's 1938 autobiographical book, Black Herman's Secrets of Magic, Mystery, and Legerdemain. And Black Herman's life becomes a, quote, living metaphor in which the willful suspension of disbelief or magic, is alternatively seen as a privilege afforded to some, a luxury unavailable to others, or a necessary mode of survival. Magic is shown here as a way of seeing the world, indeed a way of life in which the ceremonial power of cultural traditions establishes connections to the past as well as visions of a more liberated future. And to create the works in this room, Fordjour has used his signature collage technique from layers of the Financial Times. And if you look closely, you can really appreciate the metaphorical but also physical complexity that make up his works. So I'll try to always zoom in on each work. This is Fordjour's largest work to date. It measures about 85 by 420 inches, which is about roughly 216 by 167 centimeters. And it's representative of a new series of his that depicts ceremonial processions. So what we see here is Carnival, a yearly celebration where, quote, Afro-Brazilian folklore, music, and dance are celebrated. It's honestly so large, you really have to take it in scene by scene, like you're reading a story and flipping to the next page. We were really fortunate to be able to see the very last magic show by Kendrick Ice McDonald. And the gallery put on a show every single day at 2 p.m. Tuesday through Saturday for the entire run of the exhibit, which is pretty extraordinary. I will insert a few clips here so you can really get a feel for what it was like.
Cairo. There's no place like Cairo. It was where I fell in love. And love is a magic all song. Her name was Helene, also known as Helen the Heartbreaker. It was love at first sight.
We're now going to head around the corner to Pace Gallery's brand new space in LA. This will be my first time visiting to see this exhibit up here on the billboard by Julian Schnabel. The exhibit features 13 new velvet paintings and a large-scale bronze sculpture that you see when you walk through the courtyard on your way in. And these paintings are created by applying oil, spray paint, and molding paste on velvet. And honestly, the effect is stunning. Those really rich colors of the velvet just bring a depth that's very challenging to get from paint, I would imagine, without some serious pigment. The title of the exhibit, which is For Esme with Love and Squalor, actually has a really sweet backstory. For Esme with Love and Squalor is a short story by J.D. Salinger, as well as what he named his daughter, who's 4 months old. And the story is about the, quote, need for optimism in the face of violence and despair. And both the paintings and the sculpture in the exhibit, quote, reflect on a moment of turmoil and at the same time ascension, which I think is very powerful. We're now heading over to Night Gallery's two spaces in downtown LA. And the first exhibit we're going to see is an exhibit by the British artist Clare Woods. If you're not familiar with Clare Woods' work, she is known for this style of painting that is really heavily influenced by her past as a sculptor. She uses these wide brushstrokes to really create this sense of dimension with very minimal blending. And the exhibit is titled After Limbo, and it speaks to the emotional state that we're in as a society after having been in limbo, frankly, for the past few years during the pandemic. Never knowing if we'd experience sickness or health, anxiety or peace, freedom or captivity. I mean, this was traumatic. It was traumatic for me, at least. And when we go through traumatic events, we change. Things that were familiar before no longer feel the same. And this was true for Woods. She's known for painting these interior-based objects like flowers and chandeliers and vases. And after having to spend this abnormal amount of time with these objects during the lockdown in 2020 in the UK, these objects that once felt familiar to her suddenly felt foreign and strange. The sense of vulnerability and fragility was more present than ever. And we can see this reflected in the works in the fallen petals from the bouquets of flowers and the portraits. They feel really daunting to me, as if they're of someone staring at themselves in the mirror, trying to figure out what they see. And in these works, Wood asks, quote, "Is any true solace to be found in the familiar? Are we engaged in a return to the routine, the unchallenging? Or are we living in the same state we always have, where the boundary between sickness and health is inherently shaky? We look through the window for answers." So I've never had the pleasure of seeing her paperworks in person before, but these collages are fantastic. I think her style of painting translates just perfectly into collage, so I really hope to see her do more with this. We're now going to walk over to Night Gallery's East Gallery space. I've never actually seen this space before. It's very cute, very little. And this is an exhibit by Farley Aguilar titled Phantom Limb. And this is not only his first exhibit with the gallery, but actually his first exhibit in Los Angeles, which is very exciting. And the works in this exhibit explore the, quote, contradictions of the United States in the late 1950s and the mid-60s. Aguilar's works are meant to give a more comprehensive overview of American history, showing that the time was not as progressive as a narrative as we were taught growing up. Because while America was becoming this economic superpower, it was also a time of racism. So Aguilar creates his works from these everyday photographs, and this is significant because his goal is to show us a more realistic picture of the past and not one that's staged. I'm going to zoom in on the paintings here because Aguilar has a very specific style that's just instantly recognizable. He combines oil paint with these loose graphite markings with a bold rainbow color palette, and this effect really brings out each individual in his works, where the color and the placement really give clues into the emotional psyche of the subjects. We're now heading over to Sprüth, which is located conveniently right across from the LACMA. And this is an exhibit by Barbara Kruger. You could probably tell that instantly. To say that Barbara Kruger is an icon is honestly almost an understatement. I feel like you're familiar with her work, even if you're not familiar with her work, thanks to the likes of Supreme. And these specific works were created in 2020, and they speak to the pressure that we feel as women to meet society's ever-changing idea of perfection. The rest of the exhibit consists of 20 collages, or, quote, paste-ups, as the artist calls it, that she created in the 1980s. And overall, the works in this exhibit, quote, offer viewers compelling insights into her process and practice, and they illustrate the many ways in which her work has infiltrated our understanding of mass media and power structures that control and manipulate contemporary culture. Upstairs is an exhibit by a German conceptual artist, and I'm not the biggest fan of conceptual art, but I will say that this projector setup was quite impressive. They're projecting the artist constructions, or the systematic calculations that she created to represent time on graph paper, and these are supposed to depict the year 1968. And right across the street is the Los Angeles County Museum of Art, and it actually has a Barbara Kruger exhibit on view. So if you like Barbara Kruger, check that out. And if you haven't subscribed, please think about subscribing, because I will have a part 2 from my LA visit. So I wouldn't want you all to miss that, and I will see you in my next video.